All right, shut up. So, welcome to Classes and Objects, number 1. So, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to encapsulate state and behavior with classes, and you should be able to define class and object. So, let's flash back to when we were talking about dogs and dog owners. And I said, all right, well, we've got such a thing as a dog. We've got such a thing as an owner. Let's simplify this a little bit. Let's say that one owner has many dogs, but each dog only has one owner. We need to be able to represent this in code somehow. And so a couple ways we could do that. One way would be I've got something like owner name equals Kyle. And then I do something like owner city equals Denver. And then I could have something like dog name equals Bixby, and dog owner equals Kyle, I guess? Well, wait a minute. Now I've got this happening in two places. What would I do if I wanted to, in this style, I want to represent more than one dog? What do I have to do?
Dog name 1, dog
Yep.
name 2.
Yeah, we got to start putting numbers on these maybe. Anytime you see something like that happening, you're heading down the wrong track. So instead of having all these variables separate like this, we can encapsulate, we can make a template, and we can keep all of this stuff together. So instead, we get something more like an owner. It has a name and a city, and a dog has a name and an owner. And if you think of these as like cookie cutters, stamp out another dog, stamp out another dog, stamp out an owner. And then we have ways that we can kind of make them talk to each other. But Kyle, that seems more complicated than just the variables. You're right, it is. But way fewer places to make mistakes, less repetition, a lot safer to model with. So that's why we do this. Before we get roll up our sleeves, actually build a couple of these things. What questions do you have so far? All right. So, what I'm about to do, don't take notes, just watch. You're going to do it too. I'm going to make a new folder. I'll call this Doggy Daycare. I'm going to cd into Doggy Daycare, and I'm going to make a dog RB file. Empty file, nothing in it. And then I'm going to open up that empty file in a text editor, and I'll type the word class dog and then the word end. everything that's a part of this doggy cookie cutter that I'm going to make a bunch of dogs with happens in between these two words. And then if that's all that I have, that's a class. That works. I can make objects with that. So then I'm going to make an empty file called environment RB. I'm going to open that in a text editor. And I'm going to require in dog. Now, so I can actually like play with the dog. Wordplay. I'm also going to require in pry, and then I'm going to binding.pry. So what I should be able to do now is Ruby environment RB. Oh yeah, I forgot this is taking forever now. And when that runs, I should be able to make some new buddies. So I do Bixby equals dog.new. Well, now I have a dog. Mesa equals dog.new. Well, now I have a dog. Hey, what's going on with Bixby? There's Bixby. What's going on with Mesa? There's Mesa. I made a dog class, and I instantiated it. I took the shape of a dog. Not worried about name and owner yet. And I made an instance of it. So we can think of this like, I'm a really good drawer. So if that's my cookie cutter, it kind of defines what the shape of a dog is. Then I can make specific dogs out of each of those. And this one has this color and this age and this whatever, but they're all still recognizable as dogs. They have the same blueprint, the same template, that kind of thing. This one's a worried dog.
What was that word you used?
Instantiate. Instantiate means to, it's a pensive dog maybe, is to create something out of the blueprint, create something out of the cookie cutter. The cookie was instantiated from the cookie cutter. So we use that.
So there's 3 dogs.
Correct. I instantiated 3 dog objects from this dog class. Question so far? Yeah.
So at this point, they still have no attributes, do they, right?
Accurate.
Okay.
It's just a folder for you to, it's like a folder that you're gonna put all your stuff.
I like that. Kind of like a folder. We're keeping everything together. Because I can give it a name and an owner, but I don't have to do this Bixby name, Mesa name, Mesa owner. I don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. They're already sort of wrapped together. And best part of this, not only do I keep these like properties of a dog, all the things that a dog is allowed to do also go along with all that. So I get to kind of carry it around in a bucket. Questions so far? All right, let's make it real. So what I want you to do, I want you to first see if you can do it from memory, but I'll do it again and we can follow along. See if you can make an environment RB file with pry and a dog class And then I want you to make, I guess you can do these in other order. Make a dog class, and then I want you to instantiate a dog. We give you 2 minutes. I want you to see if you can do it from memory. If you can't get it all, not a problem. We'll all do it again together. 2 minutes. Those things. Go.
Okay.
Yep.
Are you recording this?
Yep.
Do gem install prime. I'm going to use once ever. Cool. Yeah, what folder did you make this? Cool. Yeah. No controls around. Ooh, you gotta save it. And then check this out. Go down here, just press call.
Okay, so if you're getting no such thing, pry, whatever, you need to run the following command. You only need to do this once. Gem install pry. You do that, our binding.pries will start working again. Okay, so I'm going to delete the thing that I just made. Follow along with me this time. McDur, doggy daycare. CD, doggy daycare. Also, get in the habit of, like when you're typing out things like that, get a couple letters in and hit tab and let it do the rest of the work for you. Much easier than like getting one character off, something like that. All right, so we're in the doggy daycare folder. I'm going to make an environment RB. So I go touch environment RB. I'm going to open that in a text editor. I'm going to require pry. I'm going to require, and the syntax on this is important, ./D dog. I'll do binding.pry. The reason that matters is pry is like a Ruby gem. That's something that somebody else wrote, we just happen to be borrowing it. If it's one of our files, it has to start with dot or dot dot. Yep.
Does it need the file extension on dog?
Nope.
Okay.
Does not need the file extension. I don't think it gets mad at you if you put it on there. Right. But by all we can import or all we can require is Ruby files, and so that extension's assumed.
That makes sense.
I'm having a hard time opening the environment in the visuals.
Okay.
So I have the environment,
Okay.
right? And then do I open it through here?
You can. So type code, and then E and B, and then hit tab. There you go. Ta-da.
Awesome.
All right, so that was our step 1. Our step 2, touch dog.rb. Then we're going to open that in a text editor. We're gonna type the class keyword, dog, and then end. That's step 2. We've made a dog class. And then Ruby environment RB, and then we're going to try to instantiate a dog. So I type Bixby equals D dog dot new, and now Bixby is an object. Questions about this so far? Yeah.
What did you just call dog?
Ooh, great question. So dog.new, that's a great question. It'll still make the dog. There's a new dog there. Problem is, now I can't do anything with it. It's not a variable, so I don't have any reference to it, but it does exist. Yeah, Jason.
Real quick, from Ruby environment.rb.
Yep.
What did you do right after that?
So I did Ruby environment RB, that is running the file. It stops when it gets to binding.pry. Dog.new returns a new instance of a dog, and I save that into a variable. Mesa equals dog.new. And now I've got a new dog. I have stamped out a cookie from the cookie cutter. Yeah?
I'm getting the bash command on that.
For Ruby?
Not for Ruby, for cellular dog.
Okay, show me your environment RB file. Interesting. You did that right. Dog should start with capital letter. Save that. Nope, with Command S. You do that on environment also. Okay, now back to the terminal. Or in that Ruby environment RB. Hey, there we go. You never have to use Vim. You can have a very happy, healthy career never using Vim in your life, but you'll be limiting your awesomeness. I was kidding. It's probably not a good use of anybody's time to learn Vim in this program, but if I absolutely can't talk you out of that, I've got some good resources for you. Okay.
circles.
Anytime if you're using, be with me now. If you're using VS Code, Sublime, Atom, there's a really common pattern. So I open up this file. You don't see it on mine. Oh, I guess you kind of do. If I change something here, you see how I got this plus next to it now? On VS Code, Atom, Sublime, any of those, it'll be a circle. That means the file has changed and you haven't saved it. So when you see that, Command S, save the file. There's also plugins you can use that will auto-save every time you make a change. I don't have any problem with those. Good to get in the habit though. And if you find like, oh, but I put binding.pry in here and it didn't work, there's a very good chance that you just didn't save your change to the file. Yep.
I'm getting a bash issue as well. Not yet.
Okay, it's because you're typing this in bash. You want to run the Ruby environment.
With code.
Nope, you're going to do Ruby environment RB.
So,
Good.
so yeah, so we have code.
Cool, so you need to do gem install try.
Yeah, so it'll do what it is.
I mean,
Yeah, now press up. Up, nope.
Did you write it?
Install try again.
I wrote it
Again?
in his.
Okay, okay. I was making sure.
Sorry, press up.
that I was
Up.
writing it in the right place.
I'm
Again.
sure you can again.
There we go. There we go. Iron business. Another thing that you should get used to seeing. Right now, I'm in bash prompt. When I type Ruby environment RB, watch how this part changes. I'm writing bash up here, and then when it hits that pry, it dumps me into something totally different. I can write Ruby here. I can't write Ruby up here. Likewise, if I try to type ls or something there, what are you talking about, dude? I only speak Ruby. I get out of that, I can type bash. What other questions have you run across so far? Yeah, Carl.
what's the best way to get out of that prime?
Love it. Control, not command, Control D. Dumps you right out. You can also type exclamation point twice, I think. That'll do it.
Exit, that one?
I believe exit works as well. Control D is a good one to sock away, though. That works in lots of stuff. Other questions that have come up so far? TC.
When I do Bing environment for the, I get an error. I don't know. I'm just trying to.
So you want to open it with your text editor, which is probably not Vim. So you're in Vim now. Cool. So you need a dog RB also. Yes. Cool. Now instead of opening these up in Vim, use default VS Code. Just get text editor. Every time I'm typing Vim, you can type code. Cool. Other questions that have come up? So let me see it. Back over here. Do Control D. And then run it again. Press up. There we go. Cool. Press up there. And put your last key. So, check this out. I change, you just watch this, don't do it also. We go into that dog file, and, well, actually, hang on. This is another thing you'll see me do every once in a while. This is called tmux. This is just multiple terminal windows. I got one there, I got one there. It's exactly like having multiple iterm windows. So over here I do Ruby environment RB. And when it runs that, I can do all the things we've done. I can instantiate dogs, do all that business. There's an important thing to note about this though. When I run this here, everything that I've written is available. But if I go into that dog file while it's running, so I do Bixby equals dog.new, neat. Awesome, I'm going to change this to cat. What happens when I do whiskers equals cat.new? Any guesses? It's going to what? No, I saved it. It's saved, but it did give me an error. Uninitialized constant cat. What gives? No, it's in the right file.
You already told it.
Because I already told it to run. Once you run the file, it's not tracking for changes or anything like that. It's not updating. Whatever it was when you ran it, that's what it is. So if I make a change, I need to kill pry and run it again. And now I'll be able to cat.new. I won't be able to dog.new anymore though. Cool. So cat.new, hey, there's my kitty. If I try to dog.new, uninitialized constant dog.
How did you rerun it?
I did Control D to stop pry, and then I just ran it again. Exactly. Cool. Other questions so far?
I get, sorry.
Yeah.
I get another arrow when I try to do the environment.
Ruby gems?
No, I was trying to.
Oh.
These are all the things that I.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't know any more things.
I think, yeah, what was the-
Okay.
No, it makes sense that. But now we should create.
I actually did it earlier.
Other questions so far?
So like this is running this in your terminal is like it's like, hey, here's some scratch paper.
That's exactly what it is.
Fuck with it and then see what happens.
And as soon as you Control D out of it, it's all gone.
Right.
It's exactly what it is. All right. Now, our dogs have names. So here's how we attach properties onto a dog. We're going to make a method called initialize. Initialize is what's running. And like this is I didn't make this word up. I can't call it init. I can't spell it wrong. It has to be precisely this. But this is the function that gets called every time I do .new. And so I can do something like tell it to take in a name. Or since we're writing Ruby, they usually leave the parentheses off. Now, this is where it starts getting brain bendy. At name equals name. Anybody remember the different words for these two different kinds of variables?
Simple?
Simple.
Instance variable?
Instance variables, this one. What's this?
Oh.
Local. Local variable. Local variable, instance variable. The local variable goes away as soon as that method is done running. I get to end, all the local variables go away. The instance variables, those stick around. If we go back to our cookie cutter metaphor, all right, I want to make a dog. I'm going to give it a name and a color. This one's black. This one's white. This one's polka dots. I'm passing in something and it stays with that dog. I get to pick whether or not I can read it out of that. I get to pick whether or not I can change that after I've set it. But I've encapsulated some attribute of this object with all of the other attributes that it's going to have. Yeah?
Having learned about hashes earlier, are these being structured in a hash within the new class?
Not quite.
Okay.
If you did any JavaScript in your pre-work, use of the word object might be kind of confusing because they use them in super different ways. An object in JavaScript is a hash, actually. So those are kind of equivalent things. There really isn't a direct equivalent to these in JavaScript, if you have any familiarity with that. All right, so now I can initialize a dog with a name. Let's see what that looks like. So I run environment.rb. And now if I just try to do dog.new, it's going to get mad at me. Why do you think it's going to get mad at me? Didn't give it a variable. Wrong number of arguments. You gave me 0 and I was expecting 1. So just like when I was defining this, I can pass it in here, like with parentheses. Or in Ruby people don't like parentheses. So I can get rid of the parentheses. And now I've got a dog with a name. I can't read the name yet. If I do bixby.name, I go, I don't know what you're talking about. But it has a name. Then if I want that name to be readable, attr_reader, and then the symbol name. What this is saying is I want the instance variable name to be readable. Now if I kill this, reload it, I make Bixby, and I try to get Bixby's name, I get a string back. Pretty cool. I can also do all of the things that I can do with any string. So I can do something like bixby.name.length, 5 characters. Pretty cool. Questions so far? All right, one more thing. Now we're going to make another method inside this. This is behavior. We're going to call this bark. And bark puts my name is at name. Now if I reload that in pry, hey, what's up, Steve? All right, so I make Bixby. There's Bixby. Hey, Bixby, what's your name? Bixby. And then if I do bixby.bark, what am I going to see? Hello, my name is Bixby. By Jove. There it is. Questions so far?
Do you have a wrong number of arguments still?
Okay.
Check it out. So I just had on bark. So I need to exit this and rerun it. And I want
Make it do dog.
Just close the quote and you're probably fine. Press up. There we go. Close the quote. That's
needed so far. So once I've saved it, then I need to close it again and open it again. Got it.
Yeah.
In the bark. Is that what it just be calling
At name. The instance variable, same one we saved up in initialize.
Yeah.
Okay, because name, that's a local variable, we need to access the instance variable. As soon as this end happened, that name went away. But instance variable is what's gonna stick around, so that's what needs to go with this. Yes. Yeah, Joe.
Do you go over once again what the attribute here at the top is doing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good
So this adder reader up top, it's a shorthand. It's called a macro. What it does is it makes a method called name that returns name. That and that are identical. But if we want to be able to like call dot anything on an instance of a dog, we need to tell it how to do that. We need to define it. So adder reader is a shorthand for that. And the cool thing is if I have age and city and all these other things, I can just stack them up like that. Carl?
Is it, I guess, do you want to define the instance variables inside initialize, or should they be defined outside it?
Have to be defined inside. If I did something like that, that's completely different.
Okay.
That's called a class instance variable.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Alexis.
I don't know, the name, because it doesn't come up on my.
So I saw this a couple times. If I did this, what's that? What's name here? Local variable. So it's looking for something in this scope named name. I had one up here, but as soon as I hit end, it goes away. So I want to access the one that's kind of saved with that instance of it. Okay, let's take a look. Did you save and did you reload? All right.
So this one should be called initialize.
Yeah, you define another initialize and give it a bark parameter. Just like this.
Cool, because you started this, and you started looking for Bixby's name, you got rid of Bixby. Every time you control delete, everything you say goes away. So you got to make Bixby again. You just press up to get to that. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Okay, so this initialize over here, that's making the new instance. What you want to do down here is that bar.
If I do Bixby equals dog,
I just press up because you need to make a new dog. You don't have any dogs to save them. Nope. Okay, so with dog.new, we need to make a new dog.
Yeah, that's
right. Yeah, and then we're gonna pass in the name for dog. We also want to save that as something. Oh, exit back to the beginning of this.
Like 70 bit contact.
Yeah.
Well, I think things like
Save. Yeah.
all the way back. All the way back.
But it's not.
The rocky equals.
I know. So where the agent?
I just need an A.
Oh, it's okay.
Yes.
Where did you put it?
There you go.
Yay.
But
Now
you
do rocky
still
network.
have to, yeah, you have to use it very.
Yeah. Because we started this up here, there's nothing else local. We got a fresh start, every single tile that we start over again. Yep.
How did you get that?
Rocky network. Hey now. Now we're playing with fire.
All right, questions? What questions do you have? Yeah.
Question. So we both did the same thing. I just want to make sure I
Yeah.
understand why it works. So in the puts,
Mhm.
initially we didn't have the @ symbol on name, and it was still returning what we were looking for. Would that have gotten messed up if there were multiple dogs added?
Maybe. So you're saying if you get rid of the @ right here,
Correct.
that should shit the bed. So if my guess is that a file wasn't saved, different version, something like that. Or I've seen this one a couple times. Hang on, let's just make sure I'm not selling wolf tickets. All right, so Bixby.bark. Oh, weird, it did work. Shouldn't. Don't do it that way. Oh, you know what? I know why it works. Because it's pulling it out of this. Yeah, super don't do that. That is like mega confusing. So another thing I want to call out. There's two methods in this class. Initialize, bark. We start a method with def, we end it with end. What I don't want to see is taking this and putting it inside of that. You can do that. It'll compile. It won't tell you did anything wrong, but you won't have bark available. Also, initialize should only happen once. We only want to do this once. Because I saw this too, def initialize bark. Can anybody tell me what this is doing? Think to yourself for a sec. What happens when I do this? I'm going to call on somebody. Oop. I'm going to call on somebody. Kelly, what's going on?
Well, I think it errored.
This probably won't throw an error until you try to use it, I think.
Well, so isn't it initializing the local variable?
So bark is going to be a local variable to this method. What else?
And then it's calling on something that was already initialized?
Yes. I already defined initialize. This probably won't throw an error, but it's also probably going to overwrite whatever I did up here. It goes, oh, cool, you defined initialize? Change your mind, you want to do it different. No problem. And so when you call dog.new, it's going to call this and take whatever argument you gave it, make it available as a local variable called bark, and then it's going to try to look up, poop this out to the screen with that instance variable, which we don't have anymore. Ooh, tricky.
Can you go into attribute reader?
Yep, absolutely. Actually, I'm going to call on somebody to explain add a reader for me. Think to yourself for a sec. What is that adder reader doing? Think to yourself. Parker, what I got going on?
It's like building a method that returns name.
That's it. That's all it is. It's exactly like if I typed def name, name. Those two things are identical. Stuff that's really common like that in Ruby, we tend to use macros and shortcuts and that kind of stuff. Alexis.
So, well, I guess because bark is not a local variable, right? So,
Correct.
So you don't have to put it next to the reader. If
Mhm.
you did, would it just not do anything?
So you can put any of these in any order you want. I can put adder reader down here. I can put bark up here. Order is not important on these.
I just mean if you put bark, like, under your bark.
Like this.
Yeah, it's just like super close.
So what that's going to do, talk me through it. The hand flies down. What happens if I add the bark symbol to this?
For an initialize bark value.
Nope. Well, kinda. What is it going to like type out for me, Patrick?
It would attempt to return the value of bark.
Yep. How? It's going to make a method called bark that just returns bark. And it'll probably get overridden because I already have a method called bark. Yeah.
So two questions. Initialize, so whatever you initialize with yours is essentially what you can use in whatever method below. I mean, depending on.
After you've instantiated.
Okay. Which is the at reader, but also why would you need to do that as well as initializing?
This isn't initializing anything. This is just making a method available called name that returns whatever the instance variable name is.
Okay.
If I get rid of that and do, I haven't lost any functionality in my app. I'll prove it. So I run this, I make a new Bixby. Why do I have to make a new Bixby?
It's a new instance.
Well, let's be careful with vocabulary there. It's a new pry. I've killed the app, I've started it again, it doesn't remember anything I've made before. So I make Bixby. Hey Bixby, what's your name? Oh, why? It's the string Bixby. That's how my dog talks.
You had deleted it and not put that method in there though, would it throw you an error?
What error would it throw me? Who knows?
Undefined.
No method?
Yes, method missing, technically. But instead of having, because like imagine I have a dozen instance variables. I have age, I have city. You see how this is getting really repetitive? That kind of stuff, as a programmer, we don't like it. So instead, we have reader, that, where I can do so much cleaner. That's why we do it that way. Other questions about this? Yep.
I'm working on the phrasing in my head as I say it. but
Good.
If you're doing dog.name,
Yep.
the name is the instance variable. of that
Correct.
variable, But it's treating it like a method because it's dot name.
Great question.
That would be-
So over here, this is its instance variable name. I can't access instance variables.
Yeah,
The only thing I can do on an object is call methods.
yeah.
So if I do Bixby.name, it's not looking up the instance variable. It can't see it. It's calling the method name, which can see the instance variable name and returns it.
Not a method name, but it's part of attribute reader that makes it a method, sort of.
Yes.
Okay.
It is, the reason it's called a macro is because who can done macros in games or spreadsheets or anything like that? It's the same thing. What's a macro?
It's like, yeah, it's like a one button shortcut to do multiple things.
Right, exactly. So Ruby hits this line and goes, add a reader name. Beep boop 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 beep boop. Complete. Instead of you having to type it out. But it's the exact same thing. That's like, yeah, that's your one button, that's your instant headshot button. Yeah,
I
Carl.
was looking for, say there isn't a name method.
Okay.
And you do dot name,
Yeah,
and then.
let's check it out.
Well, hold on, lost my train of thought. It's gonna look for the method first, and if it doesn't find it, it's gonna go to attribute reader, and then ask, is there a name attribute that you're building on?
Kind of. Really what's going to happen, so I make Bixby, I try to get Bixby's name, undefined method name, because I don't have one anymore. If I do both of them,
Which one will it?
sure. It's going to do this one, and then this is going to overwrite it.
Okay.
Cool. What else? Yeah.
So if you did have, say, city or age in there, and you tried to create a new doc, but you didn't provide it those values, would it hold them as nil?
Good question. So, so if I run this as is and try to look up the dog's city,
Yeah, and I was thinking more of like you added city to the attribute.
I see what you're saying.
But then when you create a new doc, you don't give any information on that.
Sure. All right, name, city, age. All right, I make Bixby. I get Bixby's name. Good so far. I get Bixby's age. Nothing.
And then I guess the follow-up question to that is, what does that look like if you did want to add city and age with those in there now?
Okay. Two ways I can do it. The one that I'm going to show you right now. Just comma separate them. But now we need to save all those also. City equals city. Age equals age.
Would that be considered repetitive?
Yes.
Pretty necessary.
However, it's also necessary. I'm not aware of like a built-in Ruby macro that does this for you. That's actually the case in every object-oriented language, and I think it's a stupid design flaw, but whatever. Nobody asked me. So now an interesting thing happens. Since we're expecting 3 arguments in now, when I run that again, and I try to make Bixby, what do you think is going to happen?
Not enough arguments.
Got 1 expecting 3. Wrong number of arguments, 1 for 3. So now I have to do Bixby, was it city age, Denver, 30. He's been dead a while, so. So that was the spoiler alert. All right, now I can do Bixby.city, Bixby.age, Bixby.name, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Carl.
How do you give those a default value if it's not provided? You do that. Oh.
So if I do that, and run it again, I should be able to make Bixby with just 1, 2, 3 arguments now. Any day now. There we go. So now if I try to make Bixby with that, it gave them default values. Yeah.
initialize, you have all those values. But you don't put the attribute, you don't put them in the attribute.
Like, so if I do,
Those, but you don't have them there in the attribute. It will.
I have them. I can't do anything with them.
There.
I can still do things with them inside of these methods, but I can't read it outside of that.
But when you make it, the dog will still say, it'll say like Bixby,
Mhm.
and it'll have all the attributes.
Yep. I can do something like that. Age is not readable. So when I make Bixby and I try to look up his age, it ain't gonna let me. But I can still see it when Bixby barks. So there's Bixby. See his age right there. Bixby.name. Good buddy. Bixby.age. I have no idea what you're talking about. Bixby.bark. My name's Bixby and my age is 10. Cool. So we got to wrap, but time for a couple more questions. Jason?
Real quick, can you just go back to the environment? How did I not know? Can you go and explain that city with Denver? Did you have to put that there?
Nope. Who else can explain why I did it that way?
It's because if you leave it blank, it's a required variable. If you give it a set default value,
Mhm.
you don't put anything in the call the method.
Right. If I call Bixby or dog.new with one argument, I get that argument and then these defaults. If I call it with two arguments, I get it with whatever I passed in for the first one, whatever I passed in for the second one, and the age is 10. Or I can pass in all three. But if I don't have those on there, and I try to call it with one, it'll go, hey bro, you said this needed 3 arguments, you only gave me 1. Yeah.
Would it be possible to say you had the first one required, the other two had defaults? Could you take the default of the second one and then add it in onto the third one? No?
The optional stuff, and basically every language has to be last. Cool. So our objectives in this lesson were to encapsulate state and behavior with classes. We didn't really get to this second one, but hopefully we're a little bit closer at cracking that one, defining classes and objects. Before we break, is anybody brave enough to attempt a definition of class and object that we can roll with? Yeah, hit me, John.
Class is like the method that creates your object, which
Yep.
is your dog plus whatever attributes of the dog has, its behaviors, its traits, descriptions, names.
Bravo, bravo, bravissimo. I love it. The class is the template. This is the thing that we make with the template. This is the cookie cutter. This is the cookie. This is the shape. This is the actual thing. Every dog has a name and an age and a city. That is the definition of what a dog is. My dog's name is Bixby and lives in Denver and he's 30. Class, object. Cool. Not the last time we're going to talk about it. In fact, we're talking about it again right now. If you would like to see this exact same lesson in lieu of going to Haskell, you are perfectly free to. My recommendation would be going to the Haskell review, though. Cool. Have at it.
Thanks, Kyle.
You're very welcome.